Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we are on Canto 10, Chapter 52, and there are two texts today, text 38 and 39. So we'll chant 38 responsibly. Katva Mukunda Mahati Kula Shila Rupa Vidya Vayo Dravina Tamabir Atmatulyam Tira Patim Kulvatina Virnita Kanya Kale Nrsimha Nara Lokamano Brahman Biraman, sorry. Katva Mukunda Mahita Kula Shila Rupa Vidya Vayo Dravina Damabir Atmatulyam Dira Patim Kulvatina Virnita Kanya Kale Nrsimha Nara Lokamano Biramam Katva Mukunda Mahati Kula Shila Rupa Vidya Vayo Dravina Damabir Atmatulyam Dira Patim Kulvatina Virnita Kanya Kale Nrsimha Nara Lokamano Biramam. Please chant. Katva Mukunda Mahati Kula Shila Rupa Vidya Vayo Dravina Damabir Atmatulyam Dira Patim Kulvati Narvidnita Kanya Kale Nrsimha Nara Lokamano Biramam. Katva Mukunda Mahiti Kula Shila Rupa Vidya Vayo Dravina Damabir Atmatulyam Dira Patim Kulavati Navirnita Kanya Kale Nrsimha Nara Lokamano Biramam Katva Mukunda Mahitya Kule Shila Rupa Vidya Vayo Dravina Tamabir Atmatulyam Dira Patim Kulvati Navirnita Kanya Kale Nrsimha Nare Lokamano Biramam. Word for word. Ka, Hu, Tav, You, Mukunda, O Krishna, Mahati, aristocratic, Kula, in terms of family background, Sheila, character, Rupa, beauty, Vidya, knowledge, Vaya, youth, Dravina, property, Dharma be, and influence, Atma, to yourself only, Tulyam, equal, Dhira, who is sober, Patim, as her husband, Kulavati, of a good family, Navirnita, would not choose, Kanya, marriageable young lady, Kale, at such a time, Nir, among men, Simha, O lion, Naraloka, of human society, Manaha, in the minds, Abhiramam, who gave pleasure. And the translation for text 38 is as follows. O Mukunda, you are equal only to yourself in lineage, character, beauty, knowledge, youthfulness, wealth, and influence. O lion among men, you delight the minds of all mankind. What aristocratic, sober-minded, and marriageable girl of a good family would not choose you as her husband when the proper time has come? And text 39. Tanme Bhavan Kaki Vinta Patir Angajayam Atmar Pitas Cha Bhavato Tra Vibro Vitehi Ma Vira Bhagam Abhimar Satu Kaija Arat Gomayu Vau Mirga Pater Balim Ambu Yaksha. And the translation for text 39. Therefore, my dear Lord, I have chosen you as my husband, and I surrender myself to you. Please come swiftly, O Almighty One, and make me your wife. My dear lotus-eyed Lord, let Shishupal never touch the hero's portion like a jackal stealing the property of a lion. So neither text has a purport, but I'll come to that in a minute. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshurin Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadanti Kam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sahagana Lalita Shri Sahagana Ragutam Vitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitam Shah. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpataribhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnebhyo namo namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimataram Padaswami iti namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimata Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So text 37, I'll reread it. This is Rukmini talking in both texts. So in text 37, O Mukunda, you're equal only to yourself in lineage, character, beauty, knowledge, youthfulness, wealth, and influence. O lion among men, you delight the minds of all mankind. What aristocratic, sober-minded, and marriageable girl of a good family would not choose you as her husband when the proper time has come? So there's a commentary on this verse by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And so backtracking a little bit to the previous verse, which I won't read, but just in terms of making a connection with the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he states that there was opening the seal of the letter which Rukmini had given him after writing it in her own hand in the privacy of her room. The Brahmana showed it to Krishna as a token of her love. On Krishna's request, the Brahmana read it out loud. So these are the statements of Sridhar Swami. So that's the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So everything that we're hearing is actually being read out loud by the Brahmana to Krishna. So it's not that Krishna received the letter from the Brahmana and he read it quietly. It wasn't like that. The Brahmana read the letter to Krishna. And Srila Vishwanath, he continues expressing the thought held by Krishna. So we know that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he knows the heart of Krishna. So it's very interesting because he actually creates a kind of dialogue taking place between Krishna and Rukmini. So here's the thought that Krishna has, as per Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Granted, I may be the most incomparable man in the universe, but are you the only girl in the whole universe with eyes and ears? I do not see any other maidens with such shamelessness. So this verse that we're reading today is Rukmini's response. So Krishna has just made that statement. So this is on the very subtle level. So Rukmini's response, O Mukunda, whose face, and that word is mukhe, beams with a smile like jasmine flowers. I think my computer may have changed this because it says kinder, but I'm not sure. The word Mukunda implies the idea, you have given me an opportunity to smile too. So this is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writing a response to Krishna's thought. And it's interesting, one might actually think with Krishna challenging in this way that basically Rukmini's been pretty shameless by presenting herself this way and asking for Krishna to become her husband. But she's merely saying, your face gives me an opportunity to smile. And interestingly, shameless, which was what Krishna is asking of Rukmini, he's saying, there isn't any other shameless woman who's actually done such an action as you doing. So shameless would imply that Rukmini is showing no feelings of modesty, that in fact her expressions are quite brazen. And she herself had previously said, and this is just the previous text, and these were her words, I have fixed my shameless mind upon you, O Krishna. So, Krishna's response, well, there's many other girls in the universe, and are you the only one with eyes and ears? And basically that there's some shamelessness with her particular letter. So, or the mood is shameless. And this is how Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur puts across Rukmini's response to a question that Krishna may have asked. First, Krishna's question: how can I accept you, a king's daughter, whom I have never seen or heard about, and who is shamelessly writing a letter to me, her bridegroom, with the intention of having me marry her? So that could have been Krishna's question, to elaborate on this topic of being shameless and be quite brazen on the part of Rukmini. So, putting it clearly what the fact is. And the response of Rukmini addresses this question, were it to have been asked by Krishna, of her shameless action. This is Rukmini's response, as per Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Yes, this is true. You can say that, but I will express the feelings of my heart. After you have heard this, you may accept me or reject or neglect me, favor me or reject me. I will either live happily forever, more or else I'll either live happily forevermore or else die this very day or the next. For one in my condition, there is no question of fear or shame. Therefore, I now speak. So see the incredible strength of Rukmini. Incredible. So she explains further her brazenness through a rhetorical generalization. What intelligent, sober girl, endowed with beauty and good qualities, coming from a respectable family, would not choose you as her husband? She makes a generalization that, it's almost like a natural course of action. If oneself has this particular opulence of beauty and good qualities and having come from a good family. And Srila Vishwanath points out that this implies something. It implies that only an ugly, ill-natured, and unintelligent woman of bad lineage who has not heard about Krishna would not choose him. So Krishna has this incredible humor. Okay. And Rukmini extends her logic, as per Srila Vishwanath, by saying, those with good qualities accept you who are incomparable in attributes, beauty, knowledge, youth, wealth, and power. There are many young marriageable women like me who will accept you when their time comes, but now it is my time, O lion among men. That was the word Narasimha. So it's kind of, she's agreeing with Krishna. There are so many marriageable young women, but this is her moment. And she's making this choice. So they may also make that choice, but now it's her time, so she's making the choice. So Srila Prabhupada writes that Parashara Muni has explained that Krishna, Bhagavan, is in fact in possession of certain opulences in their fullness. So no one else has all these opulences, but to the maximum degree. And this is Krishna. In their fullness, he has strength, fame, wealth, knowledge, and renunciation. So that's from Bhagavad Gita 10.1 in the purport. So Srila Prabhupada states that the more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes fixed in devotional service. And Rukmini herself had heard of Krishna, for it's described. So this was in the 23rd text of this chapter. Hearing of the beauty, prowess, transcendental character, opulence of Mukunda from visitors to the palace who sang his praises, Rukmini decided that he would be the perfect husband for her. So it's not merely that it's a matter of hearing out of the blue. She's already carrying devotion. Because that's the point. The more one hears about Krishna, the deeper one's devotion goes, and that was the case with Rukmini. So Rukmini's point is that those who have good qualities, who accept those attributes of Krishna as making him incomparable, this is the important part. And we can examine this point that she's making, because that was, Krishna's humorous statement that the other, young woman, but they haven't been as brazen as Rukmini. So this is going deeply into how she's approaching everything and what she's communicating. So looking at this point that she's made, that others who have good qualities and who accept those attributes of Krishna as being incomparable, these are sort of qualified persons to be asking of Krishna that he be their husband. So Krishna points out, so this is Krishna, and is coming from Bhagavad Gita 10.2. He points out that the devatas and the great rishis do not know about his extraordinary powers, since he's the source of the devotees and the great rishis. So this is interesting. So Krishna is saying he's actually the origin, so the first cause, in all ways, the cause of the appearance of someone and the bestower of their intelligence and other qualities, since it is he who gives them their positions and powers as devotees and rishis, because he's satisfied with their worship. So that's the interesting part. Those qualities that persons come to have, it has to do, and even the position they occupy. So he's referring to the devas, residents of the heavenly planets, and rishis. They get their extraordinary qualities because he's bestowed it upon them. Because the fundamental thing is that he actually is the source of them and the source of their position, and he's the one giving the qualities like intelligence. And looking at this particular statement of Krishna, Srila Baladev Vidyabhusan, in a purport to the same verse that I'm drawing from, which was Bhagavad Gita 10.2, he said that those qualities given by Krishna are described, and these are those qualities that Krishna gives. He gives intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy. All these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone. So that's how Srila Baladev Vidyabhusan expands on the qualities that are given by Krishna. So intelligence, in particular, is a quality that Krishna bestows, and this is defined as the power to analyze things in their proper perspective. And knowledge means that there's understanding the difference between matter and spirit. So Rukmini in particular, she's displaying this freedom from doubt and delusion because she isn't hesitant. And she understands transcendental philosophy. It's quite clear from her very clear statements. In a similar manner, she displays satyam or truthfulness, such that facts are presented as they are for the benefit of others. Because, she gives the space that there are many other young women who are also going to be of a marriageable age. And if they have good qualities, of course, the implication is Krishna has bestowed those good qualities, they're also going to choose Krishna. So she presents facts as they are, and it's for the benefit of others. She thinks they would also choose Krishna. So she draws attention to the qualities bestowed by Krishna, such that others possessing such qualities as intelligence would also select Krishna as their husband. And Srimati Rukmini is in a different position herself, since she is Lord Krishna's internal potency. And this was given in the purport in text 24. So the disciples of Srila Prabhupada mentioned this. So going back to Rukmini, she continues, and this is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur giving her inner thoughts. You are as uncontrollable as a lion. This is her talking to Krishna. But I have no desire to control you. Your incomparable beauty and qualities play in the minds of all humans. So what fault is there if you also reside in my mind? So this is all her response, dealing with this idea that, she is shamelessly expressing herself. She's been very brazen. And so the commentary on text 38, this first text, in regard to this point that she's making, that she's not looking to control Krishna, but she knows that he cannot be controlled. So this is Srila Vishwanath. If one engages his seeing power in the most beautiful Krishna, then one forgets other things. This is sense control. That is, if one puts one's senses to see Krishna, then in fact the senses are controlled. That's a very interesting thing. And Srila Prabhupada, in a similar way, he says, if one brings oneself under the control of Krishna, then one is no longer under the control of the mind. The mind can no longer dictate one's actions. So, and Rukmini is saying that she's not wishing to control Krishna, because, again, she's understanding all this philosophy. So there's those who are not under the control of Krishna, their mind dictates to them. And if one is under the control, that means that one's under the control of the mind and the senses. And as Srila Prabhupada puts it, this is Srila Prabhupada's words, the point is to be fixed up in Krishna consciousness. Don't disturb yourself by the material environment or enchantment. Be fixed up. Always chant Hare Krishna. Fix up your mind at the lotus feet of Krishna. So that's Srila Prabhupada putting it very simply, that's, the better position. So that comes from a lecture, actually, on Bhagavad Gita 934. So that verse that Srila Prabhupada is making these statements about was Krishna talking, engage your mind in always thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. That was Man Mana Baba Mad Bhakti Mad Hajimam Namaskuru Mam Evasyasi Yuktaivam Atmamam Mat Parayanaha. So text 39 has Rukmini saying, and then again, this is Srila Vishwanath, who's actually expressing her deeper inner thought. Since I am so attached to you, I've chosen you as my husband. So it's almost like she's exemplifying this particular instruction of Krishna, of always engaging the mind in thinking of him, becoming his devotee, offering obeisances to him and worshipping him, and being absorbed in him. And so she says, since I'm so attached to you, therefore I am choosing you as my husband. It is not just now, but from the beginning. I have selected only you. Both my body and soul have been offered to your lotus feet. I have sent this letter to inform you of my mental state. If you accept me, I will maintain my life. But if you reject me, I will burn myself up. I will not give myself to anyone else, even if Brahma himself comes here and commands me. So this is Rukmini's explanation and response to Krishna's original statement of her possibly being somewhat brazen. And Srila Vishwanath gives Krishna's thought. So this is Krishna's thought in response to Rukmini. this offering of yourself to me is not unmotivated, like King Bali's offering. Indeed, you have an ulterior motive. So Krishna doesn't let go. I mean, there's so much humor as well. So, as an aside, if we actually look at what was said of Bali Maharaj, and it's not exactly as Krishna is putting it. I mean, he puts it that Bali offered everything in an unmotivated way, but Rukmini, she's got an ulterior motive. So never mind that he's instructing everyone to, come to his lotus feet. He has that comment to her. So if we look at what was the case with Bali Maharaj, actually, it's said of him that rarely has one gotten the chance to give one's accumulated wealth faithfully to a saintly person who creates, who creates holy places. So that was something that was expressed of Bali Maharaj. And Srila Prabhupada writing on Bali Maharaj, this is from the 8th canto in the 20th chapter, he explains that so many Kshatriyas have laid down their lives on the battlefield, so many, for their nation. So they made a huge sacrifice. But hardly has a person been found who has given up all his property in charity to a person worthy of the gift. So this is unusual. This is Srila Prabhupada writing that here's a king in a position where he actually has so much wealth, and he actually is making a choice to give all his wealth to Lord Vamanadev. So this giving to a worthy person out of duty at the proper time and place and without expectation of return is considered charity in the mode of goodness. But above the charity given in the proper place is transcendental charity, in which everything is sacrificed for the sake of the Supreme Lord. So that was Bali Maharaj. So Krishna is saying that Bali Maharaj was unmotivated. You can certainly say that. He actually made this choice to perform transcendental charity, give up everything he owned to Lord Vamanadev. And it was done in the proper time, the proper place, and at the request of Vamanadev. So transcendental charity. So Rukmini says, true, my offering is not like the surrender of Bali. She acknowledges. But listen to her, she's very intelligent. His offering was nirbhava, without intense love. Oh, Almighty One, please accept me as your wife. Just as when a person gives food to someone else and says, you should eat this, such a natural self-offering is understood to be superior to a non-motivated offering because it is affected by real love. You should quickly send back the Brahmana with a reply so that I know whether you accept me or not. So, interesting argument. Bali Maharaj's offering didn't have the same intensity of love. So maybe it was unmotivated, but not the same intensity of love. But see, she's very, she's got it very clear, very truthful. But you send this Brahmana back with your reply. Let me know if you've accepted me or not. Now, the truth of the matter is that Bali Maharaj, he himself had the following thought. So this is how Bali Maharaj was thinking. Because we want to look at, Rukmini's argument. So Bali Maharaj was thinking this way. By giving charity, a benevolent and merciful person undoubtedly becomes even more auspicious, especially when he gives charity to a person like your good self. Under the circumstances, I must give this little brahmachari whatever charity he wants from me. So completely selfless. Anyway, Rukmini's thought is to be born in the back of one's mind. So Bali Maharaj's thought had been that even if he becomes poverty-stricken by giving everything to Vamanadev, this is what he would prefer. So what a great sacrifice he was making. I must give the requested tract of land without hesitation. So that was Bali Maharaj. And he even qualifies it, Bali Maharaj. He says, whether that same Lord Vishnu has come here to give me all benediction or to punish me as an enemy, I must carry out his order and give him the requested tract of land without hesitation. So, just to set it right, where Bali Maharaj's thinking was at the time when he made his sacrifice. Now, Rukmini ends finally on this note. And Srila Vishwanath again gives the thought, or paraphrases it, or gives it as its thought. Shishupal should not take the share meant for you. If Shishupal suddenly comes and touches this body, my hope of attaining you will be destroyed, and this body will burn to ashes in the fire of separation from you. My fear is that you will lose your prestige if Shishupal comes and takes your share like a jackal stealing from a lion. His impudence towards you will be broadcast everywhere. So she's making it pretty impossible for Lord Krishna to just let the matter go, because she's giving the alternative of what will happen should Krishna not accept her. Shishupal's going to come. But she's saying, she is a person who has all these extraordinary qualities, particularly beauty, intelligence, and I've touched a little bit on just analyzing. She certainly has truthfulness. She's actually saying to Krishna what will be the alternative. Shishupal may touch her body, in which case she's just going to burn to ashes. She's just going to give up her life. And the other problem is going to be, if Krishna permits this, actually it's going to be broadcast all over the world that Shishupal took Rukmini, who really should have been meant for Krishna. So she paints the consequence should Krishna not perform this action of accepting her. And this is what she says. At that moment, though my body is on fire, I will not experience any pain because I will be meditating on your lotus eyes. So she doesn't move from her position, no matter what, but she very factually outlines what her position is, and she responds to Krishna's statement that, her writing is pretty brazen. So if there's any comment on Rukmini's rather interesting argument to Krishna of why he should accept her as his wife, or if there's any thought to expand the discussion.
Thanks, Krsnarcana. Very, very nice class.
Thank you.
One thought, from the perspective of just recently listening to a class given by my spiritual master, explaining about the queens of Dwarka, and Rukmini, she is an direct expansion of Chandrabali, which is right-wing gopi who is very submissive to Krishna. So she will never goes, against Krishna's will and things like that. So it's fully controlled by Krishna. And now, on the other hand, the left-wing gopis, they don't like to be controlled by Krishna. On the other hand, the greatest of the left-wing gopis and the gopis in general is Srimati Radharani, who controls Krishna. Madame Mohan Mohini. So in fact, Rukmini, in her mood is that I don't look to control you, like you mentioned, no one can control you. As you said, she have full transcendental knowledge and understanding of Krishna's position. But on the other hand, we have the mood of Srimati Radharani that at the end Krishna becomes controlled by her love. So it's another level of. And interestingly, my spiritual master was saying that of the queens of Dwarka, the one that is expanded from Srimati Radharani is Satyabhama. And Satyabhama had that fiery thing. I want the flower, like that type of thing. I want the parijata. So, anyway, just.
Oh, thank you. That was a tremendous addition because it reinforces and adds another component to this mood of Rukmini, because certainly, actually, you've highlighted it very nicely, there is a sort of submissive mood, because even when Krishna is very challenging, which is, that humorous part, she always takes a super submissive position. So even this thing that, were she to have been in the position where Shishupal comes along, she's going to, remain focused on the lotus eyes of Krishna. So even under very trying circumstances, she always is in that very submissive position. So you're quite right. And even with Krishna challenging her, you brazen, shameless.
Yeah, there is several pastimes of Krishna and Rukmini in which Krishna sort of pranks Rukmini like that. There's the occasion that he tells Rukmini that no, she is just something. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but that he was going to leave. And she didn't took it as a, lightly. She went pale and almost died. And, Krishna have to immediately retreat. But Krishna does that sometimes.
Yes, he uses his humor, but it doesn't seem she responds in like humor, but rather very seriously. Yeah. I think Vaishnav Sivananda also had something.
Hare Krishna Masaji, thank you for your class. You were mentioning if we come under the control of Krishna, then we won't be under the control of the mind. So you remind me of a nice saying by one devotee. I think it was Vishrambar Sheet Prabhu. He says, if we don't preach to the mind, then the mind will preach to us. So I thought that I never forgot that. And we see that this is precisely what we do. You're mentioning hearing Krishna Katha. We feed our mind with hearing about Krishna to remain spiritually strong. So my question is that it seems logical that the more we hear about Krishna, then the more we become spiritually strong and the more we will become engaged in devotional service. But sometimes it's often that the more we hear about Krishna, the more we become ungrateful, we become bored. It's like chewing the chewed, or we may become proud. Like before I became a devotee, I was nice, but now I'm a devotee. I see everyone's faults. I'm judge, jury, and executioner. So why is this, and what to do about it?
Oh, that's an interesting thought, that actually it seems like bad qualities become more enhanced. Well, that's because the mind is getting exposed. So Krishna's opening up that hidden chamber where all that festering of bad qualities, judgmental thoughts, critical thoughts get exposed. So it's not that that's what now one is becoming, it's that that is what the mind is made up of, a lot of it. So, and Krishna exposes that to one. So it's a tremendous opportunity and such a benediction to actually have one's awareness be raised, that one now knows that that's present in the mind. And then the fact that one is hearing about Krishna should equip one in a way that strengthens the intelligence, because the intelligence is going to control the mind. So the intelligence can then examine the thought that's coming. Oh, see, this person is not very good. This person is not doing this right. Or let me make a comparison, how I would do it compared to this person. That's a favorite one of the mind, likes to make comparisons. Of course, putting oneself in the super, super superior position. So that's where, because one is actually hearing about Krishna, the intelligence is strengthened and one knows that one actually has to control that mind and say, dear mind, you know, I don't identify with you. My value is there as a servant of Krishna. So I'm actually going to perform the action that is pleasing to Krishna. And the action that's pleasing to Krishna is for me not to waste my time making comparisons of myself to this person or how I would do something compared to them, but rather I'm going to actually just try and focus on what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. Just bring it to the factual thing. Because the mind wants to go its own route, which is usually, it's a form of self-aggrandizement. The mind really likes that, really likes that. And in fact, like in the present time, it's sort of come, I guess, to the attention of the broader society that we live in, that there's the problem of narcissism. So the mind is so strong in a lot of people that they actually cater to it, like in an extreme way, like really being quite oblivious to other human beings, that they cause a lot of hurt and devastation because they're catering so much to the mind with its judgmental, harsh, unkind, critical component. So actually, it's not that it's emerging, it's that you're getting an opportunity to actually bring it under control. And that's the work one has to do. So the hearing gives one the strength to be able to do that. Because otherwise, it's like in society in the present time, so many videos get made by psychologists about, how to deal with people with narcissistic tendencies, which means persons that are really feeding their minds and causing so much devastation to others emotionally and mentally. Yeah.
Thank you again for the class. My question is, it's kind of like a statement and a question, because for me, when I think of this statement about the etymology of the name Krishna, where Prabhupada says how Krishna is the whole of existence, basically. And when I think of, in Bhagavad Gita, he speaks of the living entities as being his. They are mine. So everything already belongs to Krishna. Everyone I've heard, is married to Krishna or the wives of Krishna. So when we see the pastimes of his internal energies, acting out these pastimes, like for a soul in a male body, the conception of being male, misconception of being male. So, have you heard anything about how an actual soul in the male, inside of a male body, takes on the mood or tries to recognize the fact that it's already married to Krishna, but not like a material situation, that the souls are already belong to Krishna. They are already married to Krishna, but not in a material way.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that distinction between the embodied form and the gender of the form, and then the soul itself, which is, obviously not belaboring under the ego part, because the ego part is that identification with the particular gender of the body. So on the soul level, the one is having to, as one's practicing devotion to Krishna, so on the soul level, understanding that one's identity is as a servitor of Krishna, one is trying to erode the ego, which is, I'm male and therefore I'm strong and I'm powerful and I'm going to, control everything around me. I mean, it's a natural part of the male ego. Well, it's supposed to be like that. So, one is tempering that, because on the soul level, one is a servitor of Krishna. So one may have a very strong ego in that way. I mean, more pronounced where one acts out that. But, if it's done in service to Krishna and, one is doing it consciously, that one is controlling something for Krishna's service, then automatically that's breaking down the material, egotistical concept that one's holding, that oneself is controlling. Yeah. So it's just like being conscious of the motive for the action, being very attuned to it. Yeah. So, anything? You've been listening very attentively. Thank you very much. We're happy to have two visitors. And to have two visitors that sat in the Bhagavatam class. Very brave. Thank you very much. So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.